Tonight, we begin with a tragedy that has shocked both the entertainment world and a quiet San Antonio neighborhood. Jonathan Joss, the actor known for giving life to John Redcorn in King of the Hill, was shot and killed on June 1st during what began as a brief but heated confrontation. Now, a grand jury has indicted his neighbor, 57-year-old Sigfredo Ceja Alvarez, on a single count of murder. Alvarez had originally been arrested, but later released on a $200,000 bond. Court documents show the indictment shifts the case from a local dispute to a serious criminal trial. According to early reports, the argument that led to Joss's death unfolded rapidly. His husband, who stood beside him in those final moments, says they were approached by Alvarez, who began yelling homophobic slurs before firing his weapon. Joss pushed him out of the line of fire, a final act that he says saved his life. The emotional account from Joss's husband has shaped much of the early public understanding of the case. He states that neither he nor Jonathan carried weapons or posed any threat, and that the shooting came without warning. Police records add a chilling detail. When officers arrived, Alvarez reportedly confessed, telling them, "I shot him." Despite this, the case has not been straightforward. Alvarez later claimed he fired in self-defense, denying any homophobic intent. The emotional account from Joss's husband has shaped much of the early public understanding of the case. He states that neither he nor Jonathan carried weapons or posed any threat, and that the shooting came without warning. Police records add a chilling detail. When officers arrived, Alvarez reportedly confessed, telling them, "I shot him." Despite this, the case has not been straightforward. Alvarez later claimed he fired in self-defense, denying any homophobic intent. His attorney said the incident had nothing to do with sexual orientation, arguing instead that Alvarez feared for his safety. But the couple's history in the area raises doubts. They reported numerous incidents of harassment and threats, many of them openly homophobic. Records show more than 70 calls were made to police from their address over the past year, suggest police officials maintain that they responded consistently to the couple's concerns, noting regular contact with both Joss and local residents through standard patrols and community officers. Still, Joss's husband described an atmosphere of persistent hostility that left them feeling unsafe, especially after a fire destroyed their longtime home and forced them into temporary housing near Alvarez. That instability, combined with repeated harassment, has raised questions about whether earlier intervention might have prevented the fatal confrontation. The indictment indicates that prosecutors see contradictions in Alvarez's self-defense claims and believe stronger evidence points toward intentional violence. Legal analysts say the upcoming trial may hinge on the documented history between the neighbors and whether those prior tensions reveal a clear motive behind the shooting. As the legal case moves forward, tributes continue to pour in from across the entertainment industry. Jonathan Joss was a familiar voice to millions, having portrayed John Redcorn through all 13 seasons of King of the Hill and in its upcoming revival. He also appeared in Parks and Recreation, True Grit, and The Magnificent Seven, earning respect for bringing depth and quiet strength to his roles. After his death, the show's creators shared a heartfelt message, saying his voice and presence would be deeply missed. Friends describe him as kind, grounded, and dedicated to his craft. His loss has left fans grieving and colleagues reflecting on the senseless nature of the violence. While the court prepares to determine Alvarez's fate, many are focused on honoring Joss's legacy and seeking accountability for a life cut short. In the days following the shooting, investigators pieced together a timeline built from witness statements, police reports, and surveillance footage from the surrounding area. According to officials, Alvarez fled the scene in a vehicle immediately after firing the fatal shot, only to be detained a short time later. His alleged confession at the scene added weight to the prosecution's case, but defense attorneys insist that what happened cannot be separated from the tense interactions the neighbors shared over the past year. Those tensions, they argue, created an atmosphere where misunderstandings and fear could escalate dangerously. Meanwhile, prosecutors point to the consistent pattern of harassment the couple reported, suggesting it demonstrates motive rather than panic. As both sides prepare for trial, the central question remains whether the shooting was a deliberate act fueled by hostility or a spontaneous reaction made under claimed fear. For the community, the case has also highlighted broader issues involving bias, neighborhood friction, and the handling of repeated complaints. Residents who lived nearby reported being aware of disagreements, but expressed shock that tensions had escalated to deadly violence. Local advocates for LGBTQ safety note that the couple's history of harassment mirrors challenges many face but often struggle to document. They argue that the more than 70 calls made to police should serve as a wake-up call about how ongoing threats are tracked and addressed. Investigators maintain that officers acted within procedure, but many believe this case exposes deeper gaps in how vulnerable residents are protected. The indictment itself signals that the justice system now views the incident not as a dispute gone wrong, but as a potential hate-driven crime with far-reaching implications for community safety. At the same time, legal experts say the defense will likely focus heavily on undermining claims of homophobic motive, pointing to statements from Alvarez's relatives who deny any prejudice and insist the confrontation had nothing to do with the couple's sexuality. They also note that Texas's broad self-defense laws may become central to the argument, particularly the idea that individuals have the right to act if they believe they are in danger. Prosecutors, however, appear confident that the circumstances, the alleged slurs, and the prior encounters create a narrative of escalating hostility rather than self-preservation. As the legal teams prepare their cases, public interest continues to grow, not only because of Joss's prominence in entertainment, but because the outcome may influence how future neighborhood conflicts and bias-related threats are interpreted under state law. As emotions run high, supporters of Joss and his husband are focusing on honoring the actor's life rather than the circumstances of his death. Memorial events have celebrated his contributions to television and film, and fans have shared countless messages recalling how his performances shaped their connection to King of the Hill. Industry colleagues describe him as someone who carried his culture with pride, bringing authenticity to every role he touched. For many, the tragedy underscores how quickly a life can be taken and how unresolved tensions can erupt with devastating consequences. As the case moves toward trial, the community waits for clarity, accountability, and ultimately justice. What remains certain is that Jonathan Joss' legacy, his talent, his voice, and the impact he left on audiences continues to resonate far beyond the neighborhood where this tragedy unfolded.